Welcome back, everyone, to the Ferrari Marketplace podcast. I'm William Ross, your host. We are continuing our conversation here for the Meekum Kissimmee auction because the second half of this, I get a chat that we were having with Mr. Mealy from Prancing Horse of Nashville and Sam Murtaugh from Meekum is the Bachman collection, which is just an incredible collection of cars, of Ferraris specifically. And some of my opinion are I'm really going to be impressed by what's going to bring here, what they're going to hammer at, because these are some of the lowest mileage collector blue chip cars around in regards to F40, F50. I mean, it's crazy in regards to what these cars won 850 miles. Almost got 459 miles. I mean, an F50 with, under 1,000 miles, so is that going to break some records? Who knows? But Chris, welcome back. Appreciate you jumping on.
How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is great. So, I mean, Chris is the one. Chris has got the knows these cars very well. He was the one that was instrumental in getting this all together and getting Meekum, all set up, I guess you could say, with all these cars. So, but I want to jump right in. We're going to just hammer into this because we'll get into other stuff. But one I want to start out with though is that 166 because that's just an incredible car. I'm a big lover and aficionado of the early era stuff. But what's really cool about this car, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, that car has always been, I guess it got originally delivered to the United States.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it was a California gentleman that had the car originally, and he did quite a bit of racing with it. And then, he had a lot of fun with it, and that's what people did back in that era. There was a lot of road racing, and there was a lot of fun. There was tons of events at that point in time in the U.S.
Yeah, I was looking at the race history and stuff, and he hit all the good ones, I guess you could say back in the. It was cool to see that. And I was a bit surprised because that was, I mean, back then that was kind of a rare thing to. I mean, you had to have some deep pockets to bring a Ferrari over because I mean, when did um my mind just went blank. Chinetti start being like the import, like really kind of start bringing them in. Was that in the early 50s, 60s?
It was sometime in, I believe, because he raced obviously for um, many years. He's a two-time Le Mans winner. He won it back to back. And then obviously, he had a close relationship, obviously, with Enzo Ferrari. And then he came to the States and he was the distributor. And the exact year, I'd have to look up exactly what the exact year is, but he was at it for just many years. And, he was obviously the go-to guy in New York City.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he was the man, that's for sure. The next one I want to jump into on that 1.6, that thing's incredible. But the next one's a very special car because the 275 GTB 4K is probably one of my all-time favorite Ferraris. But what makes this car very special, it's an alloy body car. What I mean, obviously it's probably for racing purposes, but I'm not sure the total build amount of 4Ks. I know it wasn't that many. How many were alloy bodied cars? Do you know?
16.
16, that's it. And that was just for lightness, correct? Just for racing?
Yeah, obviously, yeah. The later it was, obviously, the quicker you'll go.
Was that something when you would order the car, I guess you'd say specified it, or just kind of like they built it and then you're lucky to get one?
No, absolutely. It was 100%. It was something that was ordered specifically, and it took more time, obviously, than a steel body car. But there was, quite the weight savings, and the lighter the weight, the quicker the car would be. So, for sure, it wasn't something that they just put off the assembly line. A lot of the cars were alloy cars earlier on, but as the years increased, and as the years went on, and their production increased, making the alloy cars was tougher and tougher because it is old-fashioned metal beating, and they would pound it out.
Did that car leave the factory in that yellow? Do we
Yes, it
know?
did. That
It
is
did.
that is an original. Yeah, it is an original yellow
Wow.
black car. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that thing's stunning. I mean, I'm a big fan of the yellow Ferrari. I mean, that's spectacular. If anyone's looking at the list, you go on to Meekum's website and just get on the Bachman collection. I mean, the Giallo is a very favorite color of the Bachman family for sure. And that car is spectacular. What kind of premium does that add in regards to being compared to a steel body alloy body? I mean, 4Ks obviously are the ones that get compared to 2Ks, short nose, and that stuff, but 4K alloy body. I mean, what's the premium? I mean, the yellow is probably adding some of it too, but I mean, it's got to be like 30%, 40%,
No, 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 no. It's more than that. It's
more
quite a
than that.
bit more.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Because a perfect steel body car can bring the first number will start with a three. It'll be anywhere from 3 to 3.6, 3.7 million, depending on the provenance on the vehicle, who did the restoration on it. And then on the flip side is, you have one of the 16 alloy body cars, and the cars were driven and they were raced back then. So, they some of them got a little banged up. I mean, obviously they're straight now and the cars have all been restored, but this particular car does not have any of that. It's honestly, when Emiliano Torker did the inspection on it, he's the former Ferrari Classic K employee, as well as Marco Arrighi. Both of them were Ferrari Classic K employees. Um, Both of them will tell you that the car is probably the finest example that they've ever seen.
That, I mean, yeah, it's, I mean, obviously they're of the several cars that are going to be crossing. The other great thing is if you look at how they are, on the website, these are all going off one right after another. So that's going to
Yeah.
be an incredible 3 hours, maybe 4 hours of just, I mean, blue chip, blue chip, blue chip, one after. So, I mean, that's going to be some exciting times in a room for sure, because I mean, it's just, and there's really no let up. I mean, the other cool thing is it's not just, these higher end ones too. I mean, he started his love affair with Ferrari started with 308s, correct?
Correct. The very first car was the 1984 308 GTS.
Very nice. And so obviously he has that soft spot for him because I mean, how many there's like 308s and 328s, and he's got the quattro valves, everything like that. I mean, he kind of has a soft spot for those in his collection for sure. And
Yeah, there's no
to
doubt.
see that because you know and you don't want to say that every man's Ferrari and stuff, but it's you have something price point wise, I guess you could say, that it can fill any spot for somebody. You have a car that's going to be in the low six figure range, but you're going to have stuff that's going to be seven figures easily. So
Oh yeah.
he's got, and they have very low mileage too on those. What's this? I'm assuming I would assume that they service these things regularly because a lot of these have super low miles.
Yeah, they did. Actually, we were fortunate enough to service some of the cars. We opened the dealership in 2022. So we started doing some of the service work because it was just logistically closer to them. And obviously, I had a relationship back in the past with Phil and Martha. But as the years before that, the cars were maintenance. They had maintenance that was done on the cars that the authorized Ferrari dealers that they picked. And sometimes it was in Georgia and sometimes it was in Florida. But the cars were always maintained at an authorized factory store.
Your guys, a question on that for the dealership itself and be obviously servicing the cars, but obviously you have the new stuff, but then you have the older stuff. Is there a line like, okay, we older than this, or do you guys have obviously your techs get certified and do a lot of training? I mean, do you have like someone special that handles the older cars?
Yeah, we have a Classic K technician, and that's all he does. I mean, right now, he's actually doing the certification on Dana's 410S. So that was the old Carroll Shelby race car from the late 50s. And we're actually doing the certification on that. So we have cars all the way up to modern day cars that we do certifications on. I mean, right up into, the very early cars of, what Dana's doing. And then obviously all the way up until I think the one that we just did through the shop was a F12 TDF, a
Ooh,
2017 we just put
wow.
through. Yeah.
Where, I know they kind of change up the parameters a little bit on that. How be, do you consider to get, I guess, Classic K certified?
So once the car is more than 10 years old, um, oh, hold on a second. I'm losing my mind right now. 20 years old, you can do you can lose the certification. I'm looking at a few different things right now,
Chris
but
has got a
yeah.
lot on his
And
plate. Right? Chris has a lot on his plate going on right now.
yeah, for sure. Right now, I got a lot going on, but yeah. So they'll do the certification on the car, and then yeah, you go ahead and you do the whole process, and you submit a package to Ferrari, and then they review it, and then you get a beautiful, beautiful presentation book that they give to you that shows that the car is certified, which is peace of mind, obviously, because if somebody buys a car, they know that the car is certified and it is as it left the factory. That's what you're looking for.
How long does that process take?
It takes quite a bit of time. For us to do it at the shop, it only takes, um, I'd say, several hours for us to go ahead and initially put everything together. And then we put together a package and then we submit it. And then it goes back to the Ferrari factory. And then the Ferrari factory goes ahead and um, they review everything. And it's just, it's their process to initiate exactly, if the car is as it left the factory. And they do a detailed assessment on it.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good to know. Sam, welcome on board. I see you got on finally. I know we were jumping around here, getting our start time, working some stuff around, so appreciate that.
Yeah.
We got across in regarding like the 308s, 328s, and that's how Phil got his, I guess, passion and love affair with Ferrari, kicked off. But a lot of these cars have extremely low mileage in regards to, I guess, just the age, which is, depends on your viewpoint. It's great to see, or, could be a little bit nervous on it. For Mecum itself, I mean, what would you guys do, when someone's got such low mileage cars like that and an abundance of several cars? Do you have any requirements or, prerequisites saying, well, it needs to get service or do something like that before you guys will have across the block? Or is there anything you guys want to do special for the cars?
Not necessarily. I mean, obviously, that we're at an auction. Typically, the cars are sold as is, as So it's really it's on the. We do help help buyers with as much as we can from an inspection process and help them be able to look around the car and determine what where they're at. Obviously, with whatever records there may be, whether it's a Bachman car or any car in the auction for that matter, just to help what's there for them to look at and make their own assessment of what they think they're getting into, whether that's going to require some service after the fact um, or whether it's been serviced or whatever the case might be. So we don't do any, there's no requirements. A car can be sold or offered no matter its quote unquote condition, but helping to give as much information to that buyer to be able to do their due diligence ahead of time. That's why, we very much recommend that you come inspect these cars in advance and do your due diligence ahead of time and get a good idea what you think you might expect to have to do after you buy it, if anything. So that's definitely just part of the process, but when you're buying any car at auction anywhere.
Hey, Will.
We were just speaking about the 275 GT4 4 cam alloy body. I'm always curious because that's such a special car, but being an alloy body car, that's a very delicate car. How do you guys go about, I guess, preparing the, whoever's going to be handling that car at the auction? I mean, is there some sort of do you have special people for that, or what do you guys do in regards to that? Because I mean, that's a delicate car.
Yeah, so we've got a designated crew. We call it the collections team. That their role within the organization. That role is, we've got our management team within that collections team, a group of mechanics, detailers, drivers that are dedicated to manage collections like this, like the Bachman collection. So it'll be handled by them, handled by our by that collections team. The display will be in such a way where people aren't going to just be able to glom all over these cars. They'll be quarantined off, so to speak. They'll be visible, but then it's the only people they'll be able to access and get up close and personal will be registered bidders, and they will be hosted by team members to be able to kind of guide them through and look at that. So it's not just open season, so to speak, where we're just going to leave a car like that for everybody. We'll have over 100,000 people come through the gates at Kissimmee over the course of the entire auction. So that's a lot of people, that's a lot of kids, that's a lot of families. I mean, we have to make sure that we um, display them and present them in such a way that also at the same time, allows them to be seen and viewed and appreciated, but
Yeah.
also protected to the point where, you get that amount of people. Most people, the cool thing about Mecum auctions events and really, high level car events and car shows, for the most part, car enthusiasts understand the unwritten rules of respect about, other people's cars and property. But you get that many people coming through, we have to make sure we take the right precautions to protect cars like that.
Exactly. I'm going to take a little sidebar here. Not so much necessarily something off topic, but I'm a very I don't know, maybe just don't realize it, but of a small minority of a big fan of the 400 eyes and the 412 eyes. There's one
You are.
crossing the block that's in this group is laughing at me. I love those cars. Why? I don't know. Just something about it. I like the shape, everything to it. You know, Chris, you could probably might know more about this in particular, because it looks like from the photos that car needs a little more TLC to it, because it looks like it's missed some panels. Or is that all going to be put back together for the auction?
I think it's going to be basically sold as is. I know that we discussed that we were going to try to go ahead and get it put back together prior to, but I just don't think that it, as I say, worked out in the deck. But it doesn't need much. I can tell you that right now. For instance, like one of our technicians, I think could have the whole car snap back together in 7 days' time, seven
Oh, really?
actual
Okay.
working days. Yeah, so it's not like it needs something, and that's not him on high rush. If I put two guys on it, they could really, if they could probably have the car put back together in just a couple days. But it's the gentleman that was working on it. I think that's at the same time when Phil was getting quite sick, Martha was sick, and then the gentleman just stopped working on the car at that time because she got quite ill in 2023, and she passed obviously in early 24.
Yeah, sad to hear that. That was, you know, the one other cool thing about that car is the manual. And
Yeah,
I know it's a
very.
very low percentage of those cars were made with the manual. The automatics I always kind of thought was interesting. It's got a GM 3-speed in it. But I mean, the small amount of those that were built in manual, I think was, I don't know, it makes that much better.
Yeah, it's
I'm
actually
the
it's
odd
actually
bird.
one. Yeah, it's one of five that were produced in that color combination with a manual gearbox, and it was one of 388 produced with a manual transmission out of the 1,294 400 eyes that were produced. So when you really look at it, it's quite a small amount that did have a manual gearbox. And like I said, one of 11 produced in that color combination. So out of the 1,294 total, one of 11, it is a really special car. And for somebody that's looking just to go ahead and have a little side project, it'll be a great, 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 great car. And the car, honestly, I love the car because of the color combination. Because normally you would see those cars, traditionally they're in grays and blues, and every
Yeah.
occasionally you'll see them in a black, but you really don't see them ever in you don't really even see them in red. Even in the earth tones, you would see them in a green, you would see them in a brown, but not really ever in red. So that makes that car really special.
It's
And
also
it
one of
Yeah, I
those.
is
think it
the
stands
last
out.
one. It is the last one produced in that color combination with a manual transmission. So
Wow. All
it's
right.
also in its own way, it's another one of the, as Sam was saying, it's another one of these last ones that comes up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
also one
mean,
of that car in particular. It's an opportunity car, right? So I mean, it's crossing the block. It's not. It's the car's there, but it obviously needs a little bit of finish work to get everything put back together. But that creates that opportunity, right? So I mean, like you said, that car really trips your trigger, the 400i, and but then you see it's like, well, but it's not done. But then it's that opportunity of, well, hey, maybe I can get a great deal on this thing because it's not done. Typically, it's going to bring quite a few folks like yourself that see that opportunity,
yeah.
they're crossing the block and get there. The final price tag of that car will probably surprise you, even in the condition that it's in, because of it's going to create so much of that opportunity desire that, hey, maybe I can get that deal. And it's obviously what we love about the auction process is it brings a lot of that up, those people together in one place and then bid against each other for the car. But the cool thing is, I mean, there's every once in a while I see a car like that where it's hey, it's all there, but it's got to like Chris said, it needs 7-10 days worth of work by a couple of texts. But be able to having that opportunity, and some people like that, to be able to say that they finished off, they put their DNA on it, they completed the car themselves. It makes it even more theirs when they do get that finished product. And it's kind of fun to see sometimes when the cars like that do cross the block. Cool, important car, but not quite finished, but the opportunity is there, which is cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think, yeah, it's to your point. I think that's going to surprise a lot of people in regards to, I think, what that hammers at, just because, that think opportunity. And plus, you're going to have some people out there probably think, hey, I can just do that myself.
Right.
Take longer than 7 to 10 days, but, hey, to each their own, right?
That's
So
right.
I want to get into, now we're going to start jumping into the heavy hitters. And, what's cool with this collection, especially if really wants to, I guess you'd say, have the Fab Five or whatever you want to call it, in regards to having that serious Ferrari collection. It always starts with what everyone considers the first, Ferrari supercars, the 288 GTO. Now, this one's spectacular, but the biggest thing is it says it's got 2,007 kilometers, which is just a hair over 1,200 miles. I mean, that's pushing probably the low. went around, correct?
It's one of the lowest. It's not the lowest. I know of a few others, obviously, but um, you know, and this is the other thing that's very, very important. Um, this car, it's a single owner car, whereas a lot of the other ones that you see that are floating around, they've had five, six, seven owners, and they bounce between, especially the European cars. You know, it's went from Belgium to France to Germany
Yeah.
back to Italy or what have you, and not that I'm questioning it, but every time that they fill out those odometer statements in other places way back in the day, sometimes there was a little bit of penmanship that went into it. This one, it's the original car, original owner. And to find an original owner one really, really, really makes it more of a unicorn than anything else. Then it makes it, to me, one of the most special ones that I've ever seen.
What options does that have on it? Because there weren't that many you could get on that car, but I know there's a few that are pretty rare. What options does that one have?
So that car has three of the options out of the four that were offered. So it has the radio, it has the air conditioning, um, it has the power seats. Not listen to me. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. Power windows. It has the power windows. I got to do that thing over. It has three of the four options that were available. It has the leather seats were one of them. It has the power windows, and it has the AC, and then the radio. I got to see this car here. I just have it here. I know that this car. I don't know if it has the radio delete on it. I got to just take a quick look. Let me just give me a second, guys, because I got all these cars in my head. I got to remember which one had what. I know that a lot of people look for the desired inserts, but this car did not have the inserts. I got to see where it is. It's early in the run.
Well, not that many had air conditioning either. I know because that was a low uptake say on it. I know not many have the air conditioning in those from the factory.
Okay, it has power windows, air conditioning, leather seats, radio delete. So that's what it has. The only other option that you would see, the radio delete, it was usually a lot of people went ahead and the radio was an option.
This is the
So
car
it
with the
was
special
without the radio.
luggage too, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah. So that car in particular, there was only 4 or 5 cars that were produced with a secondary bag. So originally, Michele Alboreto, who was a former Formula One driver for Ferrari, he came to Skidoni and he was looking for a very small bag to fit in the car, just to put, an overnight pair of slacks or shirt or something, but something to carry in a hotel and not walk in with a plastic bag. So they created this one bag, and it's this called the secondary smaller luggage bag, and they only made it for 4 or 5 people. And this particular car has it. I've never seen the bag ever, other than one other car, which I saw at Cavallino a few years ago, but I've never seen it with anyone else. And the bag alone is super, super, super special.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that's just spectacular. Getting like that just adds to the provenance in that car in regards to rarity alone, but just the options and now having that bag with it just makes it that much, stand up from all, I guess you say all the other ones. And to your point, I think there was only the one I was aware of too that had lower miles, but I mean, it's just one owner. I mean, that's just going to be incredible. And that kind of kicks off for someone, jumping into the super hypercar Ferrari genre, I guess you could say. Because then when you go into, because the next one basically has the same engine as the F40. Now, there's not
Very
one,
similar.
there's two. Two F40s in this collection. They're going to be going across the block. Chris, jump into both these because they both have, one's got 850 some miles, the other one's got 459 miles. I mean, what can you tell us about these two F40s? I mean, the mileage alone is incredible.
So in 1992, for the U.S. market, Ferrari made 60 cars for the U.S. market. And then out of the 60, a lot of people say which cars were made in calendar year 1992. And that was the final 24. So there really isn't many that were made. One of these cars was produced in calendar year 1992, and the other one was produced in late 91, but they're both 1992 F40s. Like I said, there was 60 produced. And one of the cars, the one that has 456 miles, that car was a factory delivery. So it has the EE plates on it. And it's, as Phil went ahead and received the car, and that car actually has the original Pirelli P0 tires that were on obviously most of the European cars. And his US model actually has those on it. The other car has the Goodyear GS A's, which were super, super rare. And it's got, you can't find them today. So these cars, for guys that are looking to show the car as original, Pirelli stopped producing this version of the tire years ago, as did Goodyear. Goodyear stopped producing them. So when people see them at shows and they say, look, this car is original, for the guys that really know, they know, because all the F40s look pretty much the same, obviously. They're all red, and they're all red interior.
Yeah, exactly. That's got to, you have the original tires like that on there. How, again, obviously storage when you go to short. I mean, what would you do to maintain those tires to be able to utilize them? I mean, obviously your climate control and that stuff, but what else can you do with those tires so you can roll it around on them so they don't deteriorate?
Right. So what Phil and Martha did, a lot of times, like when you put tire conditioners and different products like that, a lot of times they'll dry up the rubber on the car, and they knew that. So that's why when you would see the cars would not have any tire shine. I'm sure, Sam, you noticed that when we were there. The cars weren't all dazzled up with all that, super shiny stuff on them, because they knew that eventually would get into the rubber and start to break it down. And if a tire was going to go out of production, I know we're going to be bringing the tires and wheels to the auction. They went ahead and they would say, hey, this tire is going to go out of production. Let's go buy an extra set or two. And sure enough, they have, the extra rubber that they bought for some of these cars, which is non-existent. You just really can't find that stuff.
I mean, that's incredible. That's just incredible. Now, Sam, I got a question for you regarding these two. Now, I mentioned earlier that the whole collection's going bang, 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 bang across the block, one after the other. Was there any conversation of like maybe separating those two just because of the low mileage and that, or was it like no other because they're just two incredible pieces?
Well, I mean, setting the order, Chris was involved with that as well. I mean, it's, no easy feat to like, how do you, we had multiple conversations with Chris and Dana and everyone. It was, to set these 48 cars in order, and what order do you put them in? Obviously that, there's no handbook to that, right? And how do you space that out and make sure that, whether it's, guys after specific cars, you want to make sure that they have time in between what they're after. And you got to take all these different things into consideration when you're setting an order. And, we took our time and thought it through. And, the order that they'll end up being, which we have, is, done in such a way where we think it gives everybody the opportunity to be able to focus on certain things. And, but there's no super magic sauce to how it's done, other than the fact that, taking, like you said, I mean, do you put, these two cars back to back? Probably doesn't make much sense. Spread them out just a little bit, so that if there is somebody that wants to, try and come after both of them, that gives them an opportunity to sort of reset, and go after them.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I could see one buyer going after both of them. Just to have both those in there. Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean,
one other thing too to mention too, we talked about with the 288 GTO, but both these F40s, again, ordered new by Phil and Martha. It's one owner F40s, two of them. So I mean, you're kind of three in a row with these cars. To me, that's mind blowing. I mean, just like we said with the 288, to find one with one owner, most of them have 6, 7 bounced around all over the place. Same with these cars, same thing.
Yeah,
and the fact that two of them, not two, one would be incredible. To have two in the same with, the same owner, one owner, it's kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll see it again. In all honesty, I mean, it's an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, and I think Phil was so hell bent on wanting to make sure he got one. I think he was working. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but he was kind of working two angles at the same time to ensure that he got one. And then they both kind of came to fruition. And then he just decided, well, I guess I'm going to have two, and decided not to give one up. They kept both allocations and got them both done and put them both in the garage. To me, that story was I just never heard anything like that. That was pretty awesome.
Honestly, I think the best story, honestly, is the one that he didn't get. And, the one that he really wanted initially was the F50.
Yeah.
And the story behind that. The story is, Bill, I'm not sure if you know the story, is Phil went to the factory and got in town a little bit early. So usually when he would travel, T-shirt, jeans, just a good old boy from Eastern Tennessee. And it was the summertime, and he went out there, and he took a flight, and he got there a little bit early, and he was checking in the hotel right down the road, and he was driving by the factory, and he saw somebody, and they said, well, why don't you just come on in? And he was like, I just got here. And they said, yeah, don't worry about it, come on in. Somebody else apparently walked in the room, the way the story goes, and I might have the exact version, but this is pretty much the version. They saw him and they made a comment. They said, next time you come here, you better make sure that you have a sport jacket on and a suit and tie. And he was always buttoned up. He was really tight. Phil was, if you look at all the photos and the videos, he was always looking super sharp. So Simone said, that set him off, and he said, that's it, I'm done. So he had a little bit of a war with them, and you could see when it was, because it was the F50 in 95, it was the F512M in 95, and he didn't get another car until 99 with the 355 Fiorano. So there was a few years that he basically didn't purchase any cars new at that point. And eventually he went back out and he found those cars, because people always said, well, why is this one not yellow? Or why did the yellow F512M have 5,000 miles on it? I said, that's because he picked up that car secondary. But the one that sold this past summer at Pebble, that would have been his car, the final one, number 75 out of 75. That would have been his car. Yeah, because he was always getting, the last ones at that point. And, and then it's kind of took like a shape of its own. He started, after that, you could see it with every other car after that. The Fiorano, the 550 Barchetta, it was the last one for the U.S., and you could just start to see the pattern on how he started to get the cars. So it actually opened something new up after that.
Well, now you mentioned F50, that's the next one I want to get into. And I know this is of interest for everybody because, other than Ralph Lauren's one that just went, this one with only 251 miles on it is incredible. I mean,
it really is.
Yeah. I mean, for what's going on in the market with those cars, I mean, those things have just, gone through the roof, so to speak, in the past, would you say 24 months? I mean, just have shot up incredibly. I mean, it's,
brilliant.
And the desire, naturally aspirated manual V12. I mean, it just checks all the boxes. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, how do you, only 251 miles? And again, it's one owner. And again, with that.
Yeah, this one's actually multiple owners, because he purchased this car from Ian Poulter, and Ian was the second owner of the car. But nonetheless, usually what happens is, obviously Ferrari announced the F80, which is the next car in the sequence of the supercars. Usually what happens is every time that they announce one of those cars, and it's generally speaking every 10 years, you had 85 with the GTO, and it was obviously 87 is when they announced the F40, and then it went to 95, and then it went to 2013. And as time went on, it's usually about every 10 years, then the LaFerrari, and so on and so forth. So here we are, and the F80's out. When that happens, generally speaking, a lot of these people, the big collectors, guys that are new to it, they say, well, you called it the Fab Five earlier. Guys say, I want to get all of them. And sure enough, they want to jump onto, get all that stuff, and they say, okay, I want to get all the cars, and then they start to find, I want the best ones. And that's why this Bachman collection is really unique, because what Sam said is exactly the deal. You're going to see two F50s or two F40s in a sale, maybe, but to see them from the original owner with that kind of mileage, I don't think it's going to happen again. I really don't. I mean, and I've been doing this a pretty long time. I've never seen these kind of cars with this type of mileage. And then the uniqueness of the colors, the uniqueness of the options. Obviously, the cars were meticulously maintained. I don't think you're ever going to see it again. I really don't.
No, Sam, I'm sure the scuttlebutt you guys have been receiving has been that one person trying to go after a lot of these cars at one crack says you're not going to get this opportunity again, but this gets you, the best of the best. So, you guys have had to have some inquiries about, hey, I think one person is going to just wrap these things up.
We've had a lot. The interest has been, incredible, as you might imagine. As soon as we announced it, the emails and phone calls coming in to, and folks getting registered to make sure that they don't miss the chance to be a part of it and get their hands on things has been, from day one when we first made the announcement, and just steady through. It's been great. Obviously, I think, Ferrari collectors, collectors in general, just are realizing that the uniqueness of this opportunity and the fact that opportunities like this, to Chris's point, are probably not going to present themselves anytime soon, if ever again, especially with some of these cars. I mean, the one owner F40s, the one owner 288 GTO. I mean, this could be it. I mean, and to have uh, this many incredible cars and these types of conditions in one place to be able to, come take your pick. I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's going to be a
whoever
heck
you
of a week.
Yeah, I mean, whoever is going to be up there running the show at the Hammer is going to have a heck of a time. I mean, that's a career moment. I mean, that's all these in a row. I mean, that person's just got to be ecstatic because that's just going to be unbelievable.
No, it's fun. I mean, our auctioneer team is, to that point. I mean, these guys absolutely 120 million% love what they do, and they really just they get so jazzed and energized by crowd enthusiasm and bidding enthusiasm and seeing what that they're able to what they're doing in their craft and helping these folks get these to their hands on these cars and helping be a part of that process is really what drives these guys. And they're I was talking to them. We just had an auction last weekend in Las Vegas and talking to them about what's coming up in Kissimmee for everything we've got going on between with the 250 GTO, the Bachman cars here, and really, I mean, a host of there's this is probably one of, if not the greatest lineup of vehicles that we've ever
Oh,
had in Kissimmee, Florida by far. And it's to see it all coming together is pretty special. It's already a special moment. The moment hasn't even happened yet, so I can't even imagine what it's going to be like when in the moment, live, and when it's all unfolding. It's going to be pretty incredible.
you're gonna have all those emotions, excitement, anxiety. I mean, just
All of it.
everything because it's just gonna be all. I mean, it's just gonna be incredible. And, and I've been telling people, look, you need to be there. If you got a way to get there, you need to go to Kissimmee in January to be part of this because it's just going to be incredible. I mean, just the atmosphere, everything, the energy is going to be
Yeah.
unbelievable. I mean, I can't
Unreal.
wait. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
And getting into, obviously rarity, we're going to talk about the Enzo because one, it's only like thing is, they're only 30 in Jalo, right, Chris? Roughly 30 that were made.
There were exactly, I'll tell you right now, just hang on. I know how many there were globally, but just hang on. Let me just go back. Let me just go look at this car. Just give me a second. You got to give me a cheat sheet before I get on here.
Well, here, while you're looking at, trying to get that number, I would have to gather that that's the only one made with that color combo.
No, it actually isn't. There
Really?
was another one. Yeah, there was another one that was made, but this car was originally left the factory, came off the assembly line with black interior. Phil wanted this other style red Daytona seats. So they were installed at the factory, and there's photos of the car coming off the assembly line with the black seats. The car comes with both sets of seats. And then there's in the delivery room with the red seats. So they swapped them out. So that was for homologation purposes. But this car has some really unique features that no other Enzo I've ever seen that has. It has the engine brace struts in the engine bay. They're both polished. The lower body color, usually on the very bottom of all the cars, they had like a black trim that went all the
Yeah.
way around the lower trim and the rear diffuser panel. It has the Enzo Ferrari signature badge. I've only seen about 5 or 6 cars that have that, but it's really a unique one. But in Giallo for the U.S., there were 11. There was 36 cars produced globally, but 11 for the U.S.
That's incredible. That's a very, I mean, I mentioned before, I love the Giallo. I mean, the yellow is fantastic, but having that red interior, I mean, that just really makes that pop. I mean, again, and Sam, again, it's only got 251 miles. I
And
mean, it's
again,
just,
one owner.
yeah,
What do we
I
do
mean,
for
just
him?
645, 645 miles.
645. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I'm looking at the wrong
645,
one.
251 on the F50.
At 50. Yeah. So I mean, again, that's just you don't see it. And again, to your point, I was mentioned before is usually a lot of these have multiple owners. And
Right.
again, you got
Yeah.
one, on this again. So the opportunity there for one owner, that's magnificent in itself. And just the demand for that's going to be incredible. And I mean, it's just insane, in my
This is a
opinion.
car
I
that
mean,
they had.
incredible.
Phil was at the factory and actually they suited him up on the production line for this car. And this is the one, isn't
Yeah.
it, Chris? Where they
Yeah.
got to kind of turn a wrench on the final stages of the build for the car. So there's a picture of him wearing a full suit in the factory, putting a bolt in the bottom of the car. It's pretty cool. I think he's
It
probably the
is
only
very
one that's ever
cool.
had a chance to do that.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, what
Yeah.
else? I guess say memorabilia wise, that's going to come with a lot of these cars. All the cars or some of them. Obviously it's going to have books, all that kind of stuff. But what's some of the unique things that's going to accompany these cars for the next owner? I mean, what's some of the cool items? And any of them. I mean, what's going to be like? You mentioned the photo with him wrenching on the line stuff. Is there some cool items that are coming along with these cars that kind of should go with it for the next caretaker?
Yeah, well, there was a book that on a lot of the later cars that Phil picked up, and he did a European delivery. There was what they call a photo book. So the Ferrari, uh, actually, the delivery sales department, they would go ahead and provide a book, and it was manufactured from Skidoni, and everyone got it. And they probably did at that point in time, I don't know, maybe like 30 a month they were doing back then, 30 deliveries a month. And people would go to the factory, pick up their car, they would get a beautiful book, and then they would take the photos. They'd have a professional photographer there and they give this book to you. So remember, years ago, back then, the digital photos that we see today, they weren't really what they are today.
Oh,
So you would actually get an old fashioned photo book. And Phil has a photo book for lots of the cars. And if you look at all the photos, you'll see the same thing. You see PB growing their son because he was getting smaller and growing, growing, growing. You see Phil and Martha, and then you see Simone. He was in all the photos. So when you go through it, it's kind of unique. So you get that, and then every car comes with its original stuff, what I call all the tchotchke stuff, the little instruction pamphlets, and all these little things. Which, as time goes on, people take them and they're like, I don't need this little brochure, I don't need this little pamphlet, and they toss it. Phil and Martha saved everything. When I tell you everything, everything. So there's just so much stuff. I mean, that's what I'm going to call it, is stuff. There's just so much stuff that comes with every car. It's amazing. And it brings back memories even for me. There was these little static stickers that I would stick onto the windshield about emissions. People would peel those right off. When you get in your new car,
yeah.
there's like a sticker about an airbag or whatever it may be, and people pull that off. They don't save it. They throw it in the trash. He saved it. He has everything. You name it, they have it. And that's what makes this collection really unique. And obviously, we mentioned it multiple times, but it's a car that has an original owner. So to have an original owner on cars going all the way back to 84, even if he started buying cars when he was 30 years old, obviously you can do the math. I mean, he'd be in his 70s today. So Phil was pretty successful and he started buying cars quite early, and he saved everything. And since he was a car dealer, he knew, to save a lot of that stuff, whereas most people didn't. And then as the years went on, as they started to show the cars and take them to concours events, they'd break out that stuff and people would be just amazed that they had every little pamphlet, every little sticker, you name it. He would peel off the sticker that was, on the adhesive. He put it on like a nice little backer and save it. And he say, look, here's all the original stickers that came on the airbag or came here or came there. He has everything. It's really unique.
That's incredible. Sam, that had to been kind of, I mean, you guys have archivists and everything like that too, because you guys also deal in petrobilia, however you pronounce the word, in regards to that stuff. So that had been kind of interesting for you guys as well to go. I mean, whoever was going through it all to see all this material like that, because you don't ever see that.
Yeah, no, it was a big task. It's still ongoing a little bit right now, just making sure that we make sure that we've got everything that's, what belongs to the car goes with the car, so to make sure that new owner gets that stuff. But also, in addition to all the cars and all the things he saved, as Chris was mentioning, he also would collect stuff, tchotchkes, Ferrari related memorabilia, things like that. So his garage was full of that stuff. So, going through and making sure we determine, okay, this award belongs to this car, or this piece goes with this car, but then also to segregate out what was just, general collected merchandise to make sure that we have that, inventory properly, because we'll also be selling that stuff off the following day on Sunday. We'll sell the memorabilia that was the decor that was in his garage, Ferrari light up signs and
Yeah.
flags and banners, posters, things like that were just there as any car guy would decorate his garage with. So we'll have some of that as well. So, but having to go through carefully and calculatedly to make sure that we've got everything sorted correctly and what belongs to a car that needs to go along with it and all that. So yeah, it's been some work to do, but it's those are always fun projects to be able to,
Oh
the
yeah.
discovery. You're kind of like an archaeologist in that regard, and looking and discovering new things, and even stuff. Chris and I were there last month and identifying little, just the little minute. Chris kind of blew my mind with just his photographic memory of all things in tchotchke Ferrari, and what that I might drive by this little medallion and not think anything of it, but then Chris would give me this backstory about how unique this little pin is, and so just for me as a car enthusiast myself, I see thousands of cars all year long at all these different events we do, and it's work and it's a job, and some of it becomes numb, but then every once in a while you learn something new, and it really trips my trigger and reminds me of how much of a car enthusiast I am, because how cool some of these stories are, that and even a little medallion, a 2 inch by 2 inch medallion that's got a backstory can be a really fun thing to learn. That's as kind of nerdy as that sounds. There's so much of that going on inside the Bachman's garage. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's a
Amazing
lot of
stuff.
Ferrari stuff out there that's just like you only 50 around or 20. I mean, it wasn't like these things were mass produced, So, and to your point, and not throwing away anything, I mean, keeping all that stuff or collecting it and finding it, it's just huge in itself. I mean, that's just,
Yeah,
that's really, I'm looking forward to seeing that as well.
yeah.
Chris, I had a question in regard to, okay, all these have the low mileage. What was his intent, buying these cars? I mean, obviously he didn't drive them, or maybe he drove them half a mile a year. I mean, was it more just a passion because they're just gorgeous cars? I mean, what was his, I'm not say end game, but what was the thinking behind, hey, I want to buy this, but then I'm gonna, keep the mileage low.
It's kind of like when I would speak to PB about it, he understood, and obviously he had quite a number of cars as the years went on, so he can spread it out. If he wanted to drive his Ferrari, he had 46 of them to drive at one point in time. But for sure, he understood what it meant, from an authenticity standpoint, to have a car that was dead new. Phil got into doing the Corvette stuff. He did the Bloomington Gold stuff, and he understood that a car that was dead original and had super low miles, the value was going to be even that much more. So as a car dealer, he said, "Hey, look, we have to exercise the cars. We have to go ahead and use them somewhat. We just can't let them sit." So they were maintained properly, and they were used from time to time. Hence, how did this car get 4, 5, 600 miles over the years? But 20 plus years. And even if you take the car out for a mile or two a month, 25 miles a year over 10 years, it's
Yeah.
250 miles over, it just adds up. People don't think it's much, but that's how it starts to add up. He really didn't drive them much, but he did take them out from time to time. And that's why some cars have a little bit more miles than others. But he really, I think the real big deal was the FXX. When he had the FXX, that was like his chance to really get out there and really run some miles. And he ran them, and he went to all the events, has all the stickers of all the events that he participated in, and he really had a blast and he enjoyed it. Unfortunately, Phil got sick and had a stroke. Only he had a stroke in early 2011. That was his first stroke, and then he had another one after that. So he wasn't able to compete anymore. But when the program came out in '06 and all the way through, I think he was super active through '09. He was doing a lot of the events. I mean, a real lot of the events, and he was really enjoying life.
Good for him. That's great to hear. I mean, that those FXX are just insane cars. I mean, it's cool that he exercised and utilized what it was made for. I mean, that's really awesome to see. And what about like the challenge cars and stuff as well? I mean, did those ones just kind of sit more, or was the FXX the only one he really kind of went out and, I guess, they had some fun with?
Yeah, he didn't go ahead. He didn't race Ferrari Challenge. So Challenge Stradale is a road version of the Challenge car. So he had two different ones. There's a green one in the collection, and obviously the yellow one. And he put a little bit of miles on those cars, but again, not many. Very, very few.
There's obviously we talk about the LaFerraris, the Perta and the Coupe, again in unique colors. I mean, how rare are the colors in on build numbers for those cars themselves? Because you have them, they're both specced out spectacularly.
They're both really, really unique. The two most unique cars, in my opinion, in the collection are obviously the 599 SA Aperta and the 599 GTO. But to your point, the car that you pointed out, plus the 458 Speciale Aperta. But towards the end, like I said, I mentioned it when we were doing the video of taping. He was kind of the pioneer on a lot of this stuff that went on. And it was just really, really neat stuff that he did. The exact number of the Giallo Tristrato, which is a triple layer paint, which is on the LaFerrari Aperta. They made 210 of those cars, and that car's got the black interior. Obviously, on the other car, on the LaFerrari, it was one of approximately 500 produced, and they produced about 150 for the U.S. But it's a super, super, super unique car. Really, really, really unique car. I mean, they both are.
Yeah, they're spectacular. And to kind of, wrap this up a little bit, you touched on the Speciale Aperta. They got the 16M as well. Those cars have gone, in value. I mean, it's been crazy the past couple of years just because the last naturally aspirated V8. Sam, you guys have probably seen a lot of interest. I want to say from a younger generation, but you're going to have a lot more youthful interest in regards to these cars coming towards the end just because of how what they are and interest level on it. You guys anticipate a lot of, I want to say younger, but a different demographic going after maybe those cars.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're already seeing it too in the inquiries that we're having. Obviously, this is collecting cars is a generational hobby, and the folks go after what either it's either they're after nostalgia, what they remembered when they were young, or it's something with it. When I mean young, meaning when you started driving cars and you started getting into it, and what you aspired to acquire, right, or what you wish you could have but you had no money at the time. And so there's a lot of that going on. So definitely young in the town, and by young, I mean that could be 30s and 40s young. There's not a lot of 18-year-olds coming out of the woodwork for the cars per se.
Yeah.
While there could be, certainly with what's how the world works today,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely younger generations coming after these cars. I mean, myself personally, I'm 48, 47, or I think I'm 48 now. The F40s, the 280 GTO, that was coming in high school. Those were the ones I was drooling over. That's I had a picture of a 280 GTO on my wall in my room, growing up. So to me, those are the trophy cars from my era, right? So like that, guys in their 40s are coming at those things hard. Where even you get into the later model stuff, and it just keeps getting younger. But I think that the one thing about Ferrari, whether it's the 288 GTO or the 2019 TDF, whatever, anything in between. I mean, those cars really just transcend across all generations, period, end of story, all the way back to, even going back to that 67 alloy car. I mean, the Ferrari brand is appreciated so much deeper than most. And that's really interesting to me, that, the appreciation, whether you're 75 years old or 25 years old, I think it really runs the gamut. So, I mean, but to answer your question directly, we are absolutely seeing, an influx of a slightly younger demographic coming in to getting ready to bid on these cars. And it's to, like we were talking about earlier, I think it's going to be a bit of a frenzy in the room and at the time. And whether, if you're not interested in buying them, or you can't afford one just yet, to be there on site and watch this whole thing unfold is going to be a spectacular spectacle.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree. And on that note, we could probably, we could talk for hours because there's so many special cars in this collection, not just the one we kind of went in depth on. I mean, it's an unbelievable collection. And, you don't have to, be a purchaser or a buyer to enjoy this and especially be part of the action. As I mentioned before, we keep saying is if you got the wherewithal, you can get to Meekum Kissimmee in January. I think you definitely need to be there because you're going to have several hours of just Ferrari love going across that block, and you're going to see some great action, and it's going to be spectacular. So I can't wait. I'm very, very excited for that. So I want to thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate that. We'll see you guys down in Kissimmee. I'm sure Chris, mentioned before he's going to have a special guest potentially coming down there too. So we'll see. But guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And guys, take care. And remember, guys, hit that like and subscribe button and stay tuned for our next episode. Thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you.